Now, the rest of the story.
Careful not to spill my drink. So I have maybe misjudged some things before I started this day off. So as you can probably tell, I'm down at the valley. You know, this is my, I don't know if you want to get into technicals. This is the second year since I've taken this place back over. What are we getting on, third or fourth? Like third year I've actually run it. Fourth time I've made the bottom. Hands down, probably the best year. Hands down, the best this place has ever looked. I mean, this has been row crops where we're at right now, but I joke you not. There's a lot of running down here. Oops. There's a lot of running down here. And I got started at noon. It's currently 6 o'clock. Should have started earlier, but I wanted to make sure the dew was off the ground, because when you get in low-lying areas like this and neighbor's place, whatever else, the moisture tends to hang around a little bit longer, and I didn't see much point in going through and tedding it out. I like saying floofing it out, because my buddy, he's got one of those rolling, I don't know if they call those tedders, where all it does is kind of comes around and kind of floofs the hay up, or it kind of just picks it up and sets it back down. Really doesn't do anything for shredding it or spreading it out, which is what I really do need, not a floofer. But I don't know. This is fairly green. The sun has finally come out. They're calling for, don't quote me, but I do believe it was like 79, a high of 79 tomorrow, blue sky and sunny, followed by 80 the next day, blue sky and sunny, followed by like high 70s, maybe 80 again the next day. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Remember in the last video, for those of you that watched it, where I was talking about by flying by the seat of your pants, nothing sounds more official than a plan B. I might not be clear down to plan Q just yet, but needless to say, the daily or hourly intentions of what I'm planning on doing and what I will be doing and what I end up doing is changing practically by the minute here for the last 2 hours at least. So I started this off the intention that today is Saturday. I was going to TED the whole works today. Just TED everything. Okay. And then come down tomorrow and TED out the bottom itself again. Like TED out the heavy stuff, you know, strategically TED. Sounds kind of cool. I was going to come down and strategically TED out the heavier stuff just to make sure that any of those wetter spots or whatever else is just getting good and dry, because we do have, I don't know if Ryan's even posted about it yet, so I don't want to say too much, so we're just gonna jump over that subject. But I have reasons to want this good and dry without putting any of the hay preservative on it. Now I have some that without a stinking doubt, that way it's second cut. It's the stuff that got hit with the brush cutter, and I mean, it's got a lot of that stuff that didn't decompose, or that thatch, I think is what they like to call it, that it's gonna have in it. It's gonna have some moisture. It's gonna be kind of damp, and I'm gonna go through with the hay preservative on that and put down a heavy dose. I'd say lethal dose, but people probably take that the wrong way. Not necessarily, it's not lethal. I mean, honestly, as farmers, you know, you're trying to watch your costs and stuff like that. And I've said it time and time again that and you guys are probably sick of hearing me saying it, but that hay preservative is expensive, cheap insurance, because it lets me sleep, it helps me sleep at night, that the stuff isn't going to go nasty on me. I ran for last year, all the way up until the last cutting, so everything I've made from spring of last year, or early summer last year, all the way up until this last cutting I made down here, I was running the low rate nozzles. So anywhere from 80 pounds, about 85 pounds to the hour, all the way up to 128 if I maxed it out. Well, you know, we were tedding and everything else, and I mean, generally I feel like it was doing its job. I mean, if it's not even keeping it from heating too much, which it's going to heat no matter what, how much you put out. But the stuff actually does, was it citric acid? I can't remember the name of the chemical, the product that's in it. I want to say citric acid, but the reason why that is in the preservative is to preserve color. It's not there to keep it from heating or whatever else. It's literally labeled as it's there to help it keep its color. The reason I like that is because I'm trying to make pretty bales, pretty hay, a pretty product that goes up to the hay auction and looks nice. Now, this is third cutting, and it looks like it. It doesn't seem like it's as heavy as second cut, but at the same time, I've actually cut a lot more ground than I've ever have before. I've cut like maximum acres down here. There might be a quarter of an acre I'd be able to squeeze out of some spots yet. But otherwise, we've done basically all the damage that we can do when it comes to getting this place cleaned up and cut. I mean, I haven't talked to the owners yet, but I'm thinking they're going to be awfully happy when they see how nice this looks, because I'm renting the place, and I'm not trying to break my arm, I'm trying to pat myself in the back, but I'm awfully darn impressed with myself with how nice this place looks, because I know for a fact that it hasn't looked this nice since the landowners had cattle down here. Because they said that even the place where I'm driving right now, this is the first time that I've ever, well, this has been made probably ever, it's the first time that I've made it. This little, I don't know, 3/4 of an acre that we're doing has been made, and it's producing quite well, by the way. And I'm hoping I'm not kicking myself in the knees saying that, looking back going, man, do you remember, I can't, you know, 2021 is the year where we really had it figured out, because that's the year where it was dry-ish and we were able to make this whole farm 3 times. I mean, the field only got it twice, but that's because I destroyed all that nasty clover and actually planted a useful crop. Landlords approved that, but they were a little concerned about getting rid of the clover, because that consisted, a large percentage of that ground up there had clover in it, so that accounted for a fair amount of your first cut. I mean, your second cut, your yield dropped off practically nothing, but spraying it off and going through with that coon seed drill, that no-till drill with the Grassmaster and the Reed Canary and a little bit of Timothy I put in, maybe I wasted my time, but from what I've seen so far, that paid. So I would love to get this stuff that we're doing right now planted across the whole effing works. The reason for that is because my younger brother even made that comment where he's like, I mean, it's the Reed Canary, but he's just like, what is that stuff it's because it's sporadically, like, you get like 3x3 areas that it's starting up to, and he's just like, on the poorer, I'm gonna go ahead and say it, the poorer, shittier ground that, you know, won't really grow much of anything else, this stuff, even though it's considered an invasive grass and oh my gosh, people hate it, I love the stuff. The reason I say that is because the stuff performs pretty much no matter what. Too wet, hell yeah, I'll grow. Too dry? What the hell are you talking about? Ain't no problem here. And the stuff just handles varying conditions. Maybe it's a this farm issue only, but this place, it seems like it does its thing. And my goal is to try to get the whole farm seeded down to it, probably in the cheapest way possible. What I mean by that is there's a madness to the method when we go through and we cut this typically. So for first cutting, I typically do go and try, if you know it's not wet and I can't do it, I typically try to do the bottom first. The reason I do that is because usually by first cutting, it's all headed out. Okay, so when you go through and you cut it, what happens? All of those seeds from the grass that's all headed out lands onto the disc vine. Well, the disc vine, our John Deere in particular, has a nice little lip that's built into it. Granted, I'm sure it wasn't for the purpose I use it for, but you get all that canary seed sitting on the hood. See where I'm going with this? So then once you get down to the bottom, then you go up across the rest of the farm, you know, because it's not as great a grass, but it's still going to produce something. And of course, I'm paying for the place, so it's going to get made. So what happens is as you're going across the field, that canary seed rattles and shakes and bangs and clacks off onto the ground throughout the field. And it's getting a foothold. Granted, it's a painstakingly slow way to do it, but the neighbor's place, I mean, way over there, the neighbor's place, I seeded that back down in 2015 with alfalfa. Well, the alfalfa is pretty well sprayed off because that herbicide I went through here not that long ago knocked out what little bit of alfalfa was there, and the grass is coming up. But then at the same time, the canary grass, from, you know, cutting it like I have here the last couple, is sporadically coming up across the neighbor's place. And that would be stinking awesome if we could get the bottom ground yield, like how this stuff performs, across the rest of the farm. And we're talking into some serious, yeah. So, I don't know, I think this is starting to get to me. Stuff blew up at the farm. We got a gearbox out in the combine. We were trying to, you know, split our workforce up, and seems how we only have one tedder. And the ground conditions were decent enough, even though we had like 4 100ths of rain last night. Really didn't slow us down combining. We combined right through it, didn't even bother us. But Dad was gonna go combine today. He ran a bunch out, and then one of the gearboxes that runs the clean grain elevator, that is not right. It's the gearbox that runs the bubble up auger. That might not be 100%. It's at least partially correct. It might run both. It's been a while since we put that in there. We replaced it a few years ago, well, more than a few years ago, and it just went full out foobar. And it sounds like he's got it tore out, but the problem is it's Saturday, and whether or not we can get parts is up for debate, you know, until Monday. But the problem is going to be making hay here the next few days, and hopefully by doing running what we have run through, and we're finding some of these odds and end problems with the combine and get it out of its system so we can hit it with all cylinders here once this stuff's done. Because it's right now, when you got me trying to do this, and I'm gonna have Ryan down here helping me Monday, probably gonna have all three of us down here Wednesday, Thursday, just to get this stuff hauled in. Because I don't know if 300 bales is in the cards. It'd sure be nice. I mean, I think 200 is a given at this point, but we'll know once we get it all rolled up. But my curiosity is getting the better of me. I really got to get that gator and the GPS down here and run around everything again, because it's like 109 acres that I ran it around last spring of 2020, and it was like 109 acres. But the problem is I left out a lot of ground because it was so soft that I couldn't get across some of the areas with the gator. So I'm really curious as to what I'm currently running, because like my Uncle Kevin says, when he was helping us make first cut off the upper bottom here, he's like just going around and around baling. He was helping Dad hauling bales, and he's like, they'd haul out 8 bales at a time or 7 bales at a time, and he's like, it just seems like you don't get anywhere. He says the place is huge, which you got to remember, you're talking to a family that we didn't farm. We still don't really. Well, we do here, but as far as flat fields, I think we got less than 5 acres that are actually truly flat across all of our ground. It's just the area. It's the rolling region of Wisconsin. Then we're going to fuck it up by putting a bunch of solar panels around it. Sounds great, right? So when we get down here, I mean there's a few acres here, but when you take people that aren't generally used to farming flat ground and you send them out across here to pick up bales or to rake or to do anything really, it seems like it takes forever to get across there. And the lower bottom, I would have said, and don't get me wrong, we added quite a bit of ground here on the upper bottom, on the low spot there, and that spot that I'm actually driving through, it actually had a big leg in it where we couldn't, like, the only place we could get down here was where that driveway is right there. Okay, so the driveway was like 15 feet wide. I hope I didn't just lose you guys. It was about 15 feet wide, and then it was a low-lying area, which I don't think it was a truly low-lying area. I just think that the last people didn't go through and cut it because it was just soft. And it goes back to my original statement of, is it soft because it's gone so long without actually having the material pulled off of it? So you get years and years, or whatever it is, a couple of years at least of growth, that it grows up and then falls over and lays on the ground forever and it doesn't have anything ever done with it. Or it just keeps growing up and it never gets pulled off, so the ground really never gets a chance to breathe. I mean, I know it's not going to be true 100% of the time, but my logic here, and I mean, this is kind of scary when I start talking my logic, but when you start taking this off on a regular basis, I'm noticing, granted it could be because it's been a dry-ish year, which isn't 100% true for us. I mean, we're pulling in 70 bushel beans at 12.7% moisture across the first 10 acres. So it might be nothing but downhill from there, but our row crops are doing that, so we're definitely had the moisture to make a crop. And this farm, we got an inch of rain here Tuesday. Today's Saturday. So Tuesday we got an inch of rain, and you can't hardly tell. I mean, if that ground is able to breathe and kind of dry out, hopefully, so when it does get any significant amount of rain, because don't get me wrong, we've had 3 inches of rain down here this summer too, where it did have areas that it retained some of that moisture, but it did dry out. It may have taken a week or two, but I can't say that because in that video where I'm talking about coming down and when I'm down here looking at this place, I mentioned in that video, I was along that fence line driving along it with the four-wheeler, and I drove through standing water with the four-wheeler that, I mean, hasn't had water, in a while. But the thing is, I came back a couple days later when I made that video, and that water was gone. So I don't know if it's purely the year that, you know, maybe I'm overthinking it too much, and it's just because we haven't had the crazy amounts of moisture that maybe we're trending back to average or trending back to normal, where this farm can actually handle above average amounts of rain, just not every 3 days like we had for the last 4 years, where it never stopped raining. So I don't know. It's a flat rate that I'm renting this place for, which the reason it's a flat rate is because, like the landowners themselves were saying, I could lose the bottom. They've ran it for years and years, and they've said that there's years where, like, drought years or dry. Hopefully this isn't considered a drought year. If this is the norm, I'd be perfectly fine with that. I put a lot of time and work into trying to clean this place up. I mean, if you can't tell, I'm pretty proud of that fact. But on a wet year, that fence over there, you couldn't even see the top of the posts when this floods. I'm not stupid enough to think that this place will never flood again. So it's going to happen. And it's years like that are why I'm paying a flat rent, or flat rate for rent, because, okay, it's looking like it might be a good year this year, but what am I going to do next year if I get one cutting off the valley, and that cutting is in September, or I don't get any hay off of it, or like last year, where my first cutting averaged 55 bales off the bottom. First cutting this year averaged a little over 3 times that. So, I mean, it's, as opposed to paying by the acre or whatever else, because, like, I just drove through it. I mean, we don't know, it's yet to be seen what's going to happen when we start getting more rain, or if it floods. That's going to be the biggest test, to see what happens if I keep farming it like this consistently. That fence line's got to go. But if it floods, depending on when it does, if it's going to retain that water for years and years. I mean, I did talk about getting a mole plow. I mean, I'm probably going to, but my logic right now, which this place hasn't had it, which I'm not trying to say that I'm not putting down anybody else that's run this place, because I don't know. There's been a few people that have run this place before I took it back over, and according to what the landlords say, I'm the only one that's really going up and beyond as far as really hitting this place with both barrels, and really, you know, you can't fight Mother Nature, but at the same time, where I've really pretty much just told this farm, you're gonna produce something, and we're doing it. But it's the end of September, so here we go again. It's the end of September, all right? It's gonna freeze any day here. Hopefully another week or two, so we're gonna get a little bit of regrowth back across the works, which is what I want. I want it to green up. I don't want it to get 6 inches a foot tall, which it won't at this point. So what's gonna happen is this ground is gonna be exposed. Okay, so if we do get an early spring flood or a lot of snow this winter, and the river backs up and this floods, that ground, there isn't a whole lot of years and years of material sitting here in these spots like this. I mean, you can see I'm driving down through that, where that would absolutely hold water. That's exposed right now, so come next spring and it's soft or wet or it's flooded and the water finally does recede, ideally there isn't a whole bunch of material there, the ground is actually exposed better. Is that going to dry out? I mean, is that area going to continue to dry out like it is? I mean, taking all that heavy overburden off and treating this place like a farm, I mean, I know I'm going to be dealing with mud again. I know I'm going to be dealing with losing parts of my cuttings if it does flood, like in the middle of the summer, I mean, it happens. Ugh, it happens. That's actually probably my bigger concern, is that if I don't get a first cutting off and my first cut is like 4 feet tall or 6 feet tall, because it's like eye level with me, and we get a flood, then you got all that heavy material that is probably going to be lodged over. Is it going to dry out to where I can even get down here and do anything? And at that point, it's a case-by-case situation where, can we bail it if it's been flooded? I mean, dude, do you wait for it to rain again and wash that grass off? Is it going to stand back up? Probably not. If it's, you know, so then do you come down with the mower like I did down there, grind it up, get the stuff that's been flooded out back in the ground, get it start to decompose, and roll the dice. See, there's a lot more to this farming thing than I guess what it comes across, huh? I have a gambling addiction, and it's called farming. I absolutely love doing this, and honestly, the older I get, the more you learn, the more, you know, the more you acquire. I mean, because our land acreages keep shifting. I lost some this year, but I gained more than I lost, and I actually gained better ground than what I lost, so that's actually a pretty big win for me. I mean, feeling pretty good there. Never thought I'd be raising 100. I really wonder if there's 120 acres down here. 109 acres, not including the stuff that I'm currently making. And I really wonder. All right, anyway. Hay season is winding down. This is the last tedding video. If I come down and ted tomorrow, which I'm gonna have to. There's no way I'm gonna get that done. And Brittany's actually looking for me, so by the time I get the bottom done here, which there's so much here. I mean, man, actually look back to, like, I'm going from the river to the fence. I mean, there's years when I first took this over, I always used to go from the river to maybe 2/3 the way over towards the fence. And there's a lot of real estate here that, I mean, when you're driving on a four-wheeler driving across it, I guess that makes it seem like there's even more here, but when you're going through and producing a third cutting that looks like that, oh, maybe I won't make any money at the end of the year. You never know. But the biggest challenge is honestly getting the stuff made. Because you gotta fight the weather to get it cut, get it tedded, raked, baled, and inside. You get the stuff inside, that's the majority of the battle. The last 10% of the fighting is 1% hauling it, 9% hoping the stuff will sell, or getting it sold. Because if we have a year where hay is abundant, that's really gonna stink. But for hay prices being as strong as they are for the last 2 months, and if we do have kind of a nasty winter like I'm starting to hear that we will, I'm slamming as much hay inside as I possibly can, and I'm actually going to fill up the sheds at home, like the barns at home, they're empty, with the intentions that I'm going to sell everything that I can't get inside, which I'm probably going to pull a little bit out of this hoop shed, a second cut, sell that so I can get more of this third cut in quicker, so I don't have to haul it home. Because I got over 100 bales worth of room up at the home farm, and the intention of being, I'm going to sell the stuff that I can't get inside or I can't find a home for, or room for, and then we'll, once we get that stuff sold, I'll start working on selling the stuff in the sheds up at the home farm, because it's right there, and if we're still harvesting or doing tillage or whatnot, because no year is the same when it comes to farming, I'll get that stuff moved out, or at least part of it, so we can get a bunch of our corn fodder in. so that doesn't get snowed on or anything, or ice built up on it, but it's shaping up to be a good year. Now, I didn't say that because I don't want to jinx myself, but I'm looking to be really looking to be a pretty freaking awesome year. I'm hoping that it just doesn't fall apart in the last half mile. You know, prices don't just go completely, you know, prices don't crater, inputs don't go sky high, but I did put expensive inputs down here. That nitrogen that, the nitrogen that went on down here for this, to make this third cutting was expensive, but doing the math, I should at the very least double my money. As long as I get the stuff made. I gotta get the stuff made and have it keep, which, you know, having it not heat on me is a pretty large part of that, which is why I pay for the expensive, cheap liquid. But off third cutting, a cutting that I was not even planning on making. I mean, if I had it my way with my original plan, you know, that dreaded 4-letter word, I'd be making second cut right now. Can you tell in my voice that I'm very grateful I'm not making second cut right now? I mean, it was an added expense, but it's an unexpected income. And until I know what the stuff yields, in the words of Buford D. Justice, woof. Wow. I guess putting all this stuff in perspective, actually really what we're looking at here is quite impressive. Got some pretty big, wicked impressive bills I gotta pay, but I gotta end this video. Thanks for everybody that watched till the end. You're awesome. That's it for the tedding video. I'm pretty sure I'm raking this, so maybe I'll sit and tell you guys about how terrible it is that it's raking and it's not drying or something like that. But 80 degrees tomorrow and sunshine, that's going to take a pretty hefty toll on this stuff. Plus, if I go through and finish tedding the hill, if I got time, and I'm out of teeth for the tedder, so that's where I'm really burned. But if it's still halfway is doing a decent job, I may come back across this again just to stir it up. But I won't show that. Bale it and get it in. Baling it isn't so bad. I mean, if it gets rained on, but we made it. We risked it when we went through and cut it, because I cut it the day before they were calling for that rain, and it was a calculated risk that is paying off, had paid off, because the rain that we got was nothing. It was pretty much just a light sprinkle, and this stuff is still green enough where it really shrugged it off. It didn't affect it whatsoever. So that gives me a wonderful idea. Hopefully we're looking at some market top quality hay here, because the second cut stuff is not market top quality, but it's certainly far from the bottom. And with that, thanks for watching, thanks for tuning in, take care, take it easy, keep in touch, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe for more, because harvesting videos are on their way. I mean, let's be honest, we're harvesting hay right now, but for everybody that says they want harvesting videos, we'll get some of that too. So, take care.